Yeah, so I'm strongly against the rails. I just personally think that's a bad idea no matter what.
Generally, I actually think the rails are a great idea.
Yeah, I think you have to have it on Rails.
I think you can have some level of free market with Rails. I think you just plus or minus within a range.
I've always been an advocate for free market, but in this case, I'll definitely keep the rails.
Yeah, I'm also definitely for having Rails.
Okay, first I want to say that everybody running for this strategy sub council are very smart and qualified people. And what you just saw was definitely out of context. This was from the strategy sub council panel that TSG held. I do encourage everybody to go watch that full thing. But the reason why I showed you this is that I am the only one who's expressed that they are against a Rails system for fuel. And I'm going to tell you why somebody who needs to be against this Rails system needs to be on that strategy sub council. So first, let's talk about what a Rails system means. So if you're setting up Rails for fuel and you're saying they can go up 25% or down 25% based on a USD value, that means there has to be a price set for the middle of that range. So let's say for the cheapest travel, they're going to use $1. So we'll use $1 as our example. Now also, in order to do this, you need to set a certain amount of Krypton that is used for that $1. And again, this is the team or a council making this decision. So let's say that they say it's 10 Krypton. So essentially what they're saying is that 1 Krypton equals 10 cents. Now, as landowners, we're going to be working our Illuvium Zero land and we're going to be producing the fuel. But who determines how much fuel that our land can produce? Again, that is also the Illuvium team or a subcouncil. So let's say they choose tier 1 land can produce 100 units of fuel per day. So already with this system, it is the team or the council that is determining the value of your land. Because if they're saying you can make 100 per day and Krypton is equal to 10 cents, then you can make $10 per day. Again, these numbers are just an example, but it's to show that somebody needs to come up with these numbers. It's not based on a free market. And now that we've determined that in this scenario, you'd be making $10 a day, if you look at the rails, if it goes up, that $10 could be $12.50 per day. If it goes down, that $10 can be $7.50 per day. Where the problem comes in is if the demand wants to put you above these rails. So this $12.50 here is based on a 25% increase in demand. But what happens if that increase in demand is, let's say, 100%? So now what happens is that you are capped because of the rails at that $12.50 per day. So there's an excess of $7.50 that you could be making, but because the rails are set in place, the DAO needs to step in and print more fuel to meet that excess in demand. Say we go up to 500% extra in demand. Because of these rails, you can still only make $12.50 per day. On a 500% increase in demand, you should be able to make $50 per day. But these rails, again, are going to hold you to $12.50, and the DAO just gets to print the other $37.50. So this alone shows that if you are a landowner and you expect the demand to increase more than 25% from whatever we start at open beta, then you shouldn't be interested in having these rails. But that's not even the scary part. The scary part is the lower rails. So again, we have that lower rail coming down 25%. So what happens if the demand drops below this 25%? So now your $10 per day goes to $7.50 per day. Say that demand drops down to 50%. So in a free market, you should only be making $5 now out of that for your land. And as a landowner, you might think, okay, so Illuvium's going to have a rail there so that I'm always going to make $7.50. But where is that extra $2.50 coming from? That extra $2.50 is going to be coming out of the 95% of the revenue for Revdis. So in order to hold up that lower rail, instead of the landowners getting their 5%, which is what is promised, now those rails are going to have to give them that 7%, and it's going to take away from the 95% promised to ILV stakers. Now, my concern is not that this will actually happen. My concern is that if we go below those rails and we stay there, someone's going to bring this up as an issue, and IIP is going to be presented to the council, and the council will have to eliminate this lower rail. So what's the point of putting a lower rail if they're not going to be able to hold it up? So limit our upside and then have to make changes to the protocol if we hit that downside. Now, there are models that can be used that you don't even need rails to implement, but somebody needs to be in this sub-council pushing for a model that scales without rails. So a simple model that could be used is peg a travel price to say $10 and then pay for it, pay in fuel, or in the travel case, pay in Krypton. So if you let Krypton go on a free market, let's say, Krypton is going for 10 cents right now. So in order to go on this travel for $10, you're going to pay 100 Krypton to do that. Now, let's say, Krypton goes up to $1 just because the demand went up 10x. So now all of a sudden you only need 10 Krypton to go on that travel worth $10. Now, the best part about this system is that you can choose to speculate on the price of fuel, but you don't have to. In this model, anybody can come in at any time and pay $10 to travel. But if you want to speculate on fuel and you think the demand is going up, you could buy 100 units of Krypton that might let you travel one time right now. And if you hold on to that Krypton and the demand goes up 10x, all of a sudden that 100 Krypton is now going to give you 10 times to travel. And it only cost you $10 when you bought it. So there is a reason for people to buy and speculate on this coin. You don't have to participate in the fluctuation of the Krypton price. And as a landowner, it's just going to be like any other crypto you own. If the value goes up, you can choose to hold it or you can choose to sell it. Rails in itself can be avoided, and I think they should be avoided. And if nobody gets voted on to this strategy sub-council who is against it, then the rails can just go on through. And I think as a landowner, you're going to end up not being happy with the results. So I'd be very grateful if you vote for me to get onto this sub-council so I can bring this into the discussion. And then hopefully myself, with another 3 or 4 really smart people, we can come up with the best solution. But give me a chance to point out the flaws of a system with rails. But that's it. Vote May 8th through the 13th in the JAFE plays. I appreciate it. See you in the next one.